everyone. Welcome to the Athletic School podcast. Today we have another guest speaker. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's such a random way that we met. It was pretty good. You told me a little bit about your story, and when you told me about it, I was like, yeah, I have to get this back to the podcast.
So it was a story.
Yeah, especially when you talked to me about stoicism. I think that was the biggest thing for me, because that's something that I like it too. So yeah, thanks for joining me. And I mean, I want you to share a little bit of your story, how you're from New Orleans, how you got here in Louisiana, in Alexandria. Now you have a bunch of people that follow you, and you inspire a lot of people on TikTok or on Instagram. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my transition has been from one extreme to the other throughout my life. Like I grew up in a good household, but not such a good environment. You know what I'm saying? So anytime I left outside of my household, I entered an environment that instituted fear. You know, growing up in the early 90s in New Orleans, it was drug infested environment. And I got drawn into that. So getting drawn into that, I had to suffer the consequences, going to prison. And prison is where I learned just the basis of exercise through depression and anxiety. So started doing push-ups, and that became part of my healing. And ever since then, whatever trials that I went through, I found out that exercise was part of my healing. It was able to bring me out of some dark places.
What do you think was, there's a lot of people that go to prison, and when they come out, they keep doing the same thing that they were doing before, and they go back to prison. What do you think is the main difference between your mindset to their mindset?
Healing. Yeah. What I say from my experience, I think very few people in this world, that's why they say that meek shall inherit the earth. I think very few people in this world really have that deep desire to want to continue to seek wisdom over all things. Most of us fall into a materialistic mind frame forever. I've been there before, but that's not what I really wanted. So I had to make a choice. Do I want wisdom and knowledge, or do I want the materialism of the world? So when you seek wisdom and knowledge and you go deep inside yourself, you learn to connect your mind and your body. And so this kind of makes you aware of how important you are. And you start loving yourself. And once you start loving yourself, you treat your body like a temple. And then all things fall in place, I think, from my experience.
I think that makes sense. I think everyone feels like that.
Right. So just like they do the Catholic churches, and they spend a lot of money and they treat the churches, from my experience growing up in the poverty and community, and I've seen people get exploited to fix up buildings. The church always needs to fix the parking lot. So what I did was I just transmuted that knowledge and energy, and now I treat my body as if it was the church. So I pay tithes to myself by coming to the gym and going to the spa, by spending time and hours just in the steam room and focusing on myself instead of chasing women. And that's one of the major things and issues with, I think, most men that's in prison is behind chasing women. At the end of the day, we do things behind chasing women. So once you get self-control over your lower chakras, I don't know if you get that deep, but the lower parts of your body, once you get control over that and self-control, you're able to make better decisions from the heart.
Yeah, 100%. And some of the things that I talk in athletic school, it's all about mindset, because that's in life. Either if you are in prison, if you are working in an office, or if you are playing a sport, it always brings us to the mindset that people have.
Well, all right. crossing over the generations. What make this interview so important to me is it's like I could channel outside the matrix. It's almost like I could speak to you in certain ways because of your generation has the availability to receive information that we didn't have when I grew up in the 90s. All the esoteric knowledge that I have that helps me in my daily life comes from books that I had to hoarder in the 90s. But now you can just go on YouTube and you can pull up anything you could think of and get a study of it and download the program. Yeah. So so now I'm able to communicate with y'all from an esoteric way of speaking because y'all able to go to that high level because of the information that y'all have right now. And we wasn't that blessed coming up. Yeah. We were completely in the darkness. Yeah. We had no idea about the information that y'all have to kind of guide y'all and set y'all sail.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I feel like with social media, you mentioned how good it is, but it can also be bad in a lot of times because people don't know how to use it. So I feel like it's important for us to be sending the right message to people, and that's why I think bringing you here and sharing our story shows people that we are capable of anything. And we can always look at the bad side of things, or we can look at the good side of things.
Well, for my whole life, I believe wisdom is like a river that flows. It never stops. Yep. You understand? So the more you learn, there's always more to learn. And the more you learn, the less you know. So knowing that, my mind is always open to accept new information and get rid of the things that no longer serve me. So now that I think about the energies of what they so-called good and bad, I look at neither one of them as good or bad. I look at them as both learning tools for me to go straight through the middle and to accomplish the legacy that's set before me. You know what I'm saying? So most people are kind of like and that's how it's supposed to be. The majority if it was easy to do this, and everybody would do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's not supposed to be the majority that's on. You're supposed to go against the majority. If the majority is going one way, you might want to go the other way right now, especially in these days and time.
Yeah. And how did you learn all of that? Is it by reading books? It was when you came out of prison?
Well, all right. The thing that we might have in common that most people in America don't really have in common is that by you coming from another country and you coming over here, you probably grew up with certain dreams and desires to be like, I'm going to do better than this. Well, being in prison is the same kind of way. So we can meet each other from two different aspects of life on the same vibration of knowing that we've come from a better situation and the opportunity that we had before us right now, we could do anything with. And that's a mindset that I think people lose over periods of trauma. And if you don't know how to heal, if you don't know how to heal yourself, you'll carry these traumas from one relationship to another, and you get caught up in a cycle. Yeah. What they call it the cycle of karma. And I learned all this just seeking wisdom. I was in prison, I asked for one thing. I lied to God about a lot of things. I ain't gonna do it no more. But one thing I didn't lie to God about, I said, don't give me nothing. If you don't give me nothing, give me wisdom. And the reason that I wanted wisdom is because I read the story of Solomon. And I knew that Solomon was able to control all the energies around him to create his destiny and to create his own reality. So I wanted that power, you know what I'm saying? And it took a lot of sacrifice and a lot of pain and hurt and a lot of mistakes. You gotta fail. You know how many times I failed? I don't think people willing to fail as much as I failed. Yeah. I'm like the poster child. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. And for the people that are listening to us and they are seeking wisdom, like you were talking about,
right.
what would you tell them to do? Is there any advice?
Keep an open mind and don't let society become an artist of your craft. I don't care what job that you do, find out what your true craft is. Seek within yourself and find out what your true purpose is. And I don't, all the material things in the world don't add up to you seeking what your true purpose is. But once you find out what your true purpose is, you're able to act in that way on a daily basis, and it's real. And if you're able to be real, you're able to move through the universe with a certain flow. So then you become in a form of curiosity. So now that's where your faith is, a curiosity, and you run into opportunities that's part of your destiny. And now you connect yourself to your destiny based upon discipline and consistency. You know, now you're not gonna be perfect, but now you gotta now you can roll your boat gently down the stream. So all these teachings that you see in symbolisms, don't never look at them as completely negative. Because wherever there's a symbolism or a lesson to be taught or a thing that you might feel negative about, there's always a positive charge to it. So you have to just always find a balance in positive and negativity and look at it from a detachment within your emotions and learn from it. And that's the hard part. Emotional intelligence is, and I believe that Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, that's going to become a trend in the next 7 years. You're going to hear about the word Stoic so much because the cycle is changing. People are going to be seeking knowledge and wisdom. That's why we're planting these seeds right now.
I hope people are talking about it.
Oh yeah. We're a step ahead. We're a step ahead of the game right now.
For sure. And then you, after that everything happened to you, now you are creating a lot of content on social media, on TikTok.
And the major reason that I'm 48, my oldest son is 28. I got a son that's 19. I got a daughter that's 8. I got a daughter that's 7. I got another son that's going on 2. So when I make content, I like for other people to watch it, but I'm really making this content for my bloodline from when I'm not here. So I'm looking at 50 years from now when my great grandchildren who I might not never meet see me go through my trials and tribulations on video, and that might help them get through theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think an important thing that people forget about on social media, it's being authentic. And I think you have a lot of authenticity, right? You're not doing for people that are watching you necessarily.
Right.
You're doing for yourself, for your kids.
Yeah, but I would love to monetize everything. You know, that's my plan. You always have a strategy, but it's not coming from that. It's coming from the root of something that's real. And my passion is my family. I want to leave a legacy. And one of the major reasons I was able to learn this coming from a so-called African American community. I don't really like to take these labels. I'm not black. I know it's hard to explain it to people, but I just don't like to label myself as all these things. But you know, I'm a human having a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a spirit having a human experience. But I was able to come out of I was able to break some strongholds and come out of my way of thinking of myself as in a box in these labels. And once I was able to come out of these labels, I was able to look at other cultures and channel the energies from other cultures. And these energies allowed me to take certain benefits that I saw in other cultures and add them to myself. And this is how I was able to develop my discipline and my foresight and my peace.
Yeah, I love that. And I was talking to Mateus because in Brazil, and I don't really want to get into that a lot, but like in Brazil, we don't have this thing like, we do, but it's not as much as here. Like, oh no, you're black, you're white, you're this and that. Like, I don't know, we don't really talk about it.
Well, America, that's part of something called propaganda. That's just to keep people in a certain struggle.
Yeah.
It's the matrix.
Yeah.
So once you break outside the matrix and you look at things, I was able to go to, for when I went through some depression and some problems in my life, I was able to just channel myself and go to just the Vikings territory and put myself in Viking mode and go through the rough seasons in the winter of trying to figure out how I was going to get across seas just to get some natural resources to help my people survive. You know, so just channeling the Vikings, I was able to develop something called emotional fortitude. And I understand why certain cultures have certain benefits. It's because within their DNA, they had to go through certain traumas that they had to do. It's almost like working out. Yeah. When you hit a certain muscle, that muscle will have to react and get stronger because it went through trauma the day before. So that's the same thing with you see certain cultures. Certain cultures might go through certain traumas that another culture didn't go through. So they had to develop a certain resilience. But if you're able to have an open mind and an open heart, you can take some of that resilience from them, even though you didn't experience what they experienced, and use it for your benefit. Yeah. So I'm willing to channel any culture, anything. Yeah. If I could find a tool that I could use for my benefit, but I love to share too. So it's called reciprocation of energy. Yeah. And if you move around reciprocate energy, you never run out.
Yeah, I love that. And the best way to learn something is by teaching someone else, right? So, I mean, I think when we try to share, that's when we really learn, right? We can be sitting in a chair all day and expect to learn. We need to go out there and try everything. So, me and Mateus, we always talk about like how we're gonna teach our kids, you know, important life lessons. And you mentioned a lot about how you learned things that you apply to your life nowadays. But how can you show your kids all the values, all the mindset you have? What can you do to show your kids that, like, hey, this is the path you should take and not this path?
All right. It's crazy, man. I wish I could call him up right now. You know, before we had this interview, my 19-year-old son just called me up talking about a female that he was dealing with. 2 weeks ago, I told him that she was toxic, that you should cut her off. He was like, right, Dad, but I just wanted to go through it. So you got to keep an open communication with them. Allow them to tell you their shadow side. So what I've learned is that human beings, we have a light side and we have a shadow side. And a lot of times we go through these religious strongholds and ways of teaching that they kind of the old teachers. We elevate now. Y'all new generation, y'all have the ability to elevate mentally. So these old ways of thinking, now that we can shed them and we realize that the shadow side and the light side, the only way that you can see the light is in the darkness. So the darkness is just more important as the light. So I allow my children to share their dark side without judgment. And by me doing that, man, the communication level is on a whole other level.
I love that. And I think a lot of parents forget about having an open communication.
Yeah, you gotta let them share their dark side with you. Yeah. You gotta laugh with them with the dark side. You gotta get intimate with their dark side just as much as you see the light in your kids because they grew up and that's all you saw was that little baby. But as we grow up, it's not just their little baby no more.
Yeah. I get that. That's awesome. So last question that I have, question that I always ask the guest speakers, and I told you before, so I wouldn't caught you off guard. So what's your definition of success?
My definition of success is resilience. As long as you're resilient, as long as you're able to get up, pull your bootstraps up and keep it pushing. So you need emotional fortitude. You know, this is success to me. Spending your lifetime trying to find a balance between the mind, the body, the spirit, and your emotions. If you could try to find a balance between the mind, body, spirit, and emotions, just spend your lifetime trying to get that balance. And as long as you're pursuing that, that's success.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think there's a quote that talks about winning, but I think it applies to what you said as well. It says that you can only rent win, right? And it's due every day. So tomorrow it's another day, and then you have to win again, and the day after tomorrow has to win again. And I think it's the same thing for success. You can be successful today. That doesn't mean that you're going to be successful tomorrow, right? If you don't have that balance.
Right.
So you have to find that balance every day. Otherwise, you're not being successful.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And every day you wake up, the first thing you do is attend to the temple, because the only way that the spirit can move in this 3D realm is through the temple. Without the temple, you cannot express yourself.
Yeah.
So the first thing you got to do is keep that temple sharp and stay chiseled.
Yeah. People have to understand how important it is to take care of their bodies first.
Right.
Otherwise, there's no way to get it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. You were saying a lot of good things that I.
Yeah, we don't have another one, man. It's just a start. It's just a little pinch, but we don't get deeper.
For sure, but I really appreciate you taking the time to. And I was just thinking yesterday, how I go around and I try to find a lot of guest speakers, and I have found great guest speakers for the podcast that they add a lot of value to the people that are listening. But I think the way that we met, it's like the best way to find something valuable. Totally random. And then you started talking to me, and then we started talking today. We're here, right? I think that's just awesome.